Welcome back to Two Gals and a Glass Half Full. We are in November. We are talking about relationships, and today we are going to talk about ourselves. How exciting! Yay! But before I get started, Dr. Jess, what is in your glass?
I'm working on my cup of coffee, so I put it in this mug so that because it takes me so long to finish it, and so if I can keep it warm, then I don't have to like keep reheating it. And so it's not one of the fancy ones that like plug in where it's like a mug that constantly stays warm. So it does the trick. It does the trick. Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
I am on water, just plain old water with our Two Gals logo on my cup.
Yeah, I like it.
So,
And,
hey, Jess,
oh yeah.
didn't you used to have like one of those coffee things that like you could set, like it was a warmer and you could set the cup on there?
Yeah, so like it was this thing where like you plugged it in and the little plate itself stayed warm and then your
Hmm.
cup of coffee on top of there. It was supposed to keep your cup of coffee warm. But it kind of like it never really the top of the coffee never really warmed well. So you'd still get that like kind of lukewarm and then the coffee underneath was warm. So
Oh.
yeah, and so now they have those mugs that they're really nice. They like the whole mug warms.
Hmm.
So my husband has one because he works from home, and so like he's not like moving around, getting in and out of the car and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that one really works well for him. But for me, because I am moving around so much, I would spill it all over my lap in the car, you know.
Yeah.
So I just use like I don't know, I have
A
a little
nice.
thing about like the size of it. I still want it to feel like a mug. I don't want that big old heavy thing. Like I don't want to drink like I'm drinking a big thing of water. It's a thing. So like just a smaller travel mug, like it still makes me feel like I'm drinking, more relaxed cup of coffee. It's all about, the aesthetics. I don't know.
I get it. We all have our thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. So anyway, so today what we're going to be talking about is the month of relationships. And so we thought it would be fun for us to share our relationship of Dr. Bobbie and I and kind of like how we first became friends. And then, as we've progressed through our phases of life and how we've been able to maintain our friendship. Because, there's only like each phase of life, at least for me, there's one, maybe two people that continue from that phase into my next phases. And so like what kind of constitutes somebody that kind of stays with you? Like what are the different variables that are there? And so so that's kind of what we were going to talk about today. Because I think it's kind of fun.
I think it's fun, and it's crazy to think how long we've known each other.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
am I really that old?
I know. Sometimes I don't want to think about that. Yeah. And then I'll talk to like, we're hiring right now at the clinic. So I'm doing these interviews and I'm like, oh, wow, you're young. like I didn't realize I'm at that phase where I'm like, back in my day, like it was different in my time,
Think about it. 2000 Y2K. Like, I remember it like yesterday. They're turning 23 this year.
Oh yeah, like I mean, when we first got out of school, we were documenting on paper, right? Like
Right.
not EMR, like all this other stuff. Like it's just different, that's all.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dr. Bobbie, do you remember when we first met? Like we both were in such big phases of change in our lives. I mean, it was just yeah.
Well, we were just starting PT school. I think it was before they did like a welcome,
That
like get
welcome
to know
meeting
your
thing.
class. And found out you live like literally a block from me, like in the same little apartment area. And yeah, I think it was just going to that welcome. Both of us like didn't know anyone. No one really knew anyone in that matter. And just to start a PT school.
Yeah, like that welcome dinner. It's like, like I've just moved to St. Augustine, Dr. Bobbie just moved to St. Augustine, like all of the people in our class, some people lived there, but most everybody had moved to start at this program, and so nobody really knew anybody else. I don't think because there's no like married couples or anything like that at that point. So there's this dinner and so gathering really, and you just kind of walk in and nobody. You've just moved into this brand new town, and
You
so
want to find that one person quickly
yeah,
that you can start talking to, so
yeah,
you're not that awkward like walking around like, I don't know anyone. What do I talk about? Who are these people?
Exactly. And like I had just moved from living in South America. So when I was done with my undergraduate work, I took 2 years and I lived in South America for a year. I was in Santiago doing a bunch of volunteer work, and I worked for this wilderness camp for a year. So I was in like the mountains of like Wyoming and North Carolina. And so I just had these 2 years of being very free, I guess, and very experiential with my life and learning and challenging all of my boundaries, living out in the wilderness, living in the city, 5 million people that speak another language than I do. And so I was very used to being uncomfortable at that point because like essentially I was just always uncomfortable. And but it's still, still this anxiety of like, am I gonna fit in? Like, am I going to like be considered like normative to this group of people, because like, you never know, like each new time, maybe you won't be, maybe nobody there's going to really be your jam. And so, so I just still remember feeling like, gosh, I've done so many things where I'm uncomfortable and yet I'm still so uncomfortable. So I don't know if you ever really get over that.
I don't think so. And I am, once I get to know people, I'm very outgoing.
Mhm.
But when I don't know someone or I'm walking in, I am like super quiet. Now, if I have that one good friend, I'll go do anything.
Right.
But
Yep.
like me trying to go on my own,
Mhm.
that's scary for me. Like,
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point, right? Is that sometimes when it's scary, that's okay. It's so uncomfortable, but like that's how you're going to put yourself out there and just say, hi, like,
right.
hi, my name is Jess. Like what brings you to this program? Like you just find those like commonalities. And we had like, don't get me wrong, there was a bunch of nice people in our class for sure,
Yeah.
but there's just reasons why I think like we ended up becoming like really good friends. I mean, yeah, we lived close by, right?
Yeah.
And so but we had a lot of classmates in that apartment complex, right?
Correct.
So there was a bunch of us lived all in that same one, so which was great for like studying and
Made it
if
easy.
if I wanted to run the bridge to go back, throw my bag in someone's car. Hey,
And
I'm gonna try and squeeze a
I'll
run in.
meet you over there.
Exactly. But yeah, I do think that there's just like there's that person that kind of that can say like, hey, I see you too, and like
Mhm.
there's just like a sense of comfort with that, even if you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
And we had like such different backgrounds.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
and what's neat is like different backgrounds and completely different likes and passions. And I mean, it could not be further one end to the other on certain topics. And
Yeah.
it still worked.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So like Dr. Bobbie was like high level gymnast, like went to like the big university and on the gymnastics team, like all that kind of fun stuff. And like I went to a very small university and did not do competitive athletics, was much more into like, I mean, I did like, the smaller, what's that called? Like intramurals and whatnot.
Mhm.
But more like individual sport type stuff with like running and tennis and things like that. And so so we had like this background that was similar of like we really enjoyed movement and exercise just in different ways, right?
Mhm.
And we had this similar background of like we're very interested in healthcare and helping people get better, and we had just other similar concepts of like just wanting to like be supported in eating healthy and being supported in just how do we keep our stress level down. And we just did a lot of like, because we had those common core values, I think it doesn't matter if some of these other things are different, like our core values were still similar, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, so no matter what, like we were able to come to some sort of an agreement, or some sort of a plan or whatever that
Mhm.
might be, because those were there. I mean, you remember when you did the that the Whole30 and we're doing that
Oh,
full
yes.
detox?
Yes. Yes.
Like, I don't know how to do it, but sure, let's do it.
Yes.
Like my core value is like eating healthy, and if you want to do this big detox, I'll do it with you, sure. And like,
Yep.
when I like needed movement and needed to play tennis and nobody would play with me,
That's this great story. And I think we've already said it. I think we've
Yeah,
probably said it at some point, but
yeah,
Dr. Jess gets a little cranky
yeah,
when she doesn't get to play tennis, at least at
yeah,
that point. Like tennis was the big thing. Now I know you're big into running,
yeah.
but at that point, like tennis was her go-to. And I don't play tennis. I also really hurt my elbow in gymnastics. And so my arm that I would hit with is the elbow that I hurt. And so it would kind of hurt a little bit with hitting a racket through there. And so one day there was Jess hadn't played tennis in a few days, and the normal people that would play with her that actually knew how to play, no one was willing to play. So I show up at the door and said, "We're going to play tennis, but I don't know how, and I'm using my bad arm." But like it's learning, like, hey, at least get out there, enjoy the court. Yeah, it wasn't her uh all out tennis match, but at least you get out there and hit a few balls and
The thing is, like, you showed up, right? And so
yeah.
it's like when you can feel like that friend, because you feel what they feel, right? You know what that feels like to just need some sort of outlet. And so it's being able to come in and support them, even if it's not your strong suit, you still come in and support them, you know? And
Mhm.
it's like if, let's say like Dr. Bobbie was like super overwhelmed before a test, right? And we are just like really stressed. Like you could see the energy and just say, hey, like, what's going on? Well, I don't feel confident. Well, I would quiz her. I just bam, like start quizzing
Mhm.
her. I'm like, you got this. And then once she started like saying it out loud, then we might find the one point where she would like bumble, bumble, bumble. I'm like, there's your weakness. Let's fill in the weakness, then we're done. You got
Yeah.
this, right? And she would do the same for me. If I was like, I don't know, I don't got this, she'd be like, Jess, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? And then we keep going until I would bumble. Boom. Ah, there we go. There's my weak point. Thank you. And so it's like sometimes it's having that person that can step away from you and like
Mhm.
see what something is feeling uneasy and then help fill that gap in. And then it's like the two of you really start to learn how to trust each other and support each other. And so it's like because the common values were there though, those core
Mhm.
values were there of like
Yeah.
we want to be good healthcare practitioners, we want to take care of our bodies with nutrition, we want to take care of our bodies with exercise, we want to really try and manage our stress because lord was
Right.
that stressful. um
Yes. Oh my gosh. I
yeah.
remember one of our favorite things, and Jess and we were so close that if we showed up somewhere without the other, it would always be like, if I showed up, it'd be like, is Jess okay? What's wrong with Jess? Like we never went anywhere without
No.
each other.
Yeah.
Um, Two of my favorite stories. One is one day, so we lived pretty close to school. So we had an hour lunch. So we could go home to eat. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. And one day we went home and I had a roommate, Tamara. And so Tamara and I go pick up Jess after lunch. Just gets in the car and we were like, Jess, did you eat? Oh my goodness. Something stunk so bad. So we come to find out she had fish. She reheated fish. And that's what the smell was. So Jess is like hanging out the car door with like the air going, and like she's trying to put a sweater over herself. And we walk into class that day, and she's normally front row, like right there, back in the corner, no partner. She's like sitting way back there.
Nobody wants to get close to me, sorry, like. Yeah, because you know what, like that smell, it's like you don't even realize that you're just moving so fast. You heat it up, you're like, I don't know, I'll just eat it real quick. Didn't even think about like changing my clothes, you know. I'm like trying to like air it out from the window of the car. Maybe I'll get the smell out of the fibers of the cotton shirt, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was. And my other one is, so Jess and I lived apart for the first like 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, and then the last year we lived together, or the last semester, right? Last semester we lived together. And I get a phone call, and Jess was down in Florida. I was not. And so she was apartment shopping and looking for a place to live. And I'll never forget, Bobbie, I found the perfect place. Like it's literally across the street from the ocean. So like we have the beach right there. And she's like, it's perfect. The price is perfect. Everything's great. She's like, the only thing is it's a little dated. And Jess is a little dated means a lot dated.
Yeah, there's
So
nothing great about the inside at all.
oh my gosh, but it was perfect. It was just what I needed. But like my shower was that like I think it was like the olive green from the 70s.
Mhm.
Wasn't there wallpaper on the cabinets or
In the
was that
kitchen.
in the
Yeah, we called
kitchen?
it the
Yeah.
botanical garden because there was like
Yeah,
wallpaper
yes,
on
we
the
did.
cabinets and it had like the drop ceiling, so it was like really low. I was like, welcome to our botanical garden. Like, here's our kitchen. Like,
Dog. Oh, Bella. I'll never
mm.
one day somehow Bella locked us out. The dog managed to what isn't it like the turn knob thing?
Like it's like that lock, like when you're in a bathroom stall and there's the thing that slides across from the
Yes.
inside. So we had one of those on the front door. So like you could lock it from the inside, but then nobody from the outside could get in, right?
Including a
So
locksmith.
I adopted my first dog like on my own, like during this semester, and she was a little crazy and high energy. Yeah, she was a rescue, 2 years old, and she was like awesome. But she would run and jump and hit that door when we would leave, just kind of like, don't leave me here. And so anyway, somehow she hit that door and somehow that latch slid. She locked us out. Like we can't get in. Like the locksmith, like he was like, there's nothing I can do. Like I can't finagle anything here. So we ended up figuring out and there's a back slider that we were able to essentially break into, which taught me
Right.
you should really secure those a lot better. Okay.
Right.
Cheap fix a piece of wood at the hardware store and just drop that in the back of the slider. And then we would have really been locked out.
Had to break something to get in then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had many adventures through graduate school, and then like our careers took us into different cities, and we've never lived in the same city since, and that's kind of normal for how the world works right now. We've got a very mobile society, and I do think though that when you've developed that rapport and those friendships and based on those core values, you can still continue to support each other because now you're in these same phases of life, right? We both are working our first jobs, and there's all the anxiety and stress and all of that stuff of your first jobs. And then, you're starting to like, where am I going to go with my career? What kind of continuing education do I want to do? What are my financial goals that I'm working on? I mean, it's all of these very similar things that you're going through. So even remotely, we still supported each other. Like we get on video calls or phone calls, and I'd be on a run. Hey, hey, Bobbie, like, here's what's going on with this or that. Like, what are your thoughts? And so like, then obviously now we have the whole like partners, and talking about
Mhm.
like our relationships there, and then kids and parenting. And so it's like really cool to be able to like have, because we still have the same values that we did then. Like it's still the same values of like, I want to keep myself supported. I want to keep myself healthy so that I'm better for the world around me. And I want to continue to grow. And so somebody else that still is like that, it doesn't matter if, she likes gymnastics and I like tennis, or, she lives in Chicago and I live in Florida, or, her kid is a little bit younger than my kid, or none of that matters really. Those are just details. But in the nitty gritty, we're still on the same page across the board, you know.
And I think it's also sorry, a little one just distracted me.
Yeah.
We're thinking, but I think what's important also and when that, especially when you aren't in close proximity, is communication and that
Hmm.
it's two ways. It's not
Yep.
just one person always calling the other and
Right.
not one person putting in all the effort. And I think that's important. I think that's where a lot of relationships get lost is when it becomes like a one way. And
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's life gets busy, things happen, but like you really both it's hard to maintain a friendship from a distance
It
sometimes.
is. Yeah.
So both people have to be willing to put in that like a good effort.
Absolutely. And I think there's just the importance of like, we do get together in person as well.
Yes.
Right. So it was, when Bobbie moved to Arizona for her first job. And so, I have the background in backcountry and backpacking and, all that kind of stuff in the mountains. And so I was like, Bobbie, what if I come out and visit you and then you're so close to the Grand Canyon, let's go backpacking. And she was like, okay. So it was awesome. Like
It was.
it was like, I
It
mean,
was.
mind blowing. We went into the Havasupai land and there's like, you can camp. Like, I mean, it's down into the canyon, you traverse for a while. I think it's like maybe 10 miles in.
Yep.
And where you camp is like right on this river and it is turquoise water. It's like beautiful. Like it's a short walk up to this gorgeous waterfall. You can do this like canyons, like through the water, kind of like the Narrows in Zion, but in the Grand Canyon version of the Narrows hike. And so it's like, it's just insane. You've got these cliff walls going straight up and you're walking through this water. And so that's what like backpacking allows you to get away from the masses and into some of these really beautiful places. And Bobbie had never done it. And so it's like, but let's try it, right?
And
Like,
it's like one of my favorite memories out there. Like
yeah.
it was just so much fun. Granted, I remember how much I was sore I was.
Yeah.
We hiked in, and I think I calculated it was in like 2.5 days. We did 30 some miles of hiking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we got on the way back, we luckily hired the donkeys to take our bags out, which was a great idea.
Mhm.
Because I don't think I would have made it otherwise.
The packs were, I mean, the packs were rather, I mean, this was pre like some of the material in a backpack has like progressively gotten so much lighter, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and at that point we couldn't really afford the like really nice lightweight stuff. So the packs were heavy, you know. They fit, but you know, wasn't as light as my pack is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember we got to the top and there was a place where you could go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom and I fell on the toilet. And it was like my legs were so sore. Like I couldn't like I had to use the like handicap handrails to pull myself up. I could not physically stand up off the toilet. I was like,
Right.
oh my goodness. But
Yeah.
oh my gosh, one of my best memories. It was so fun.
It was insane, like so pretty. So yeah, there's just like all sorts of different just experiences that we've had. And it's like, well, if you live in the city, let's go find this. Or if I live over here, let's go do that. And you know, and then when you lived in Charleston and we lived in Asheville, like, you know, you would stop at our house on the way back up to Chicago to go visit your family. And
It was
so
also my hurricane evacuation plan.
exactly. Yep. When you lived in Charleston, that was our
I remember moving to Charleston. They're like, what's your plan? And I was like, my plan for what? And they're like, your hurricane evacuation plan. I was like, you really have to have one of those? Like, what do
yeah,
you mean? What is my plan?
right. Yeah. You're like, I'm from Chicago. Like, I don't think
Right.
about these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just like, I think, you know, when you make things a priority and you say, okay, this is something that I value, it doesn't mean that you have to talk every single day, but even just those like quick little messages of like, hey, like, you know, I hope today's a good day. I know, you know, I don't know, something was going on, like, and I hope it went well. You know, just that little bit, like, it just makes you feel connected because they thought of you and they remembered something that was like important to you. And so, and then that just kind of, I think overall is what helps us stay connected with our community. And so, and there's so much that's important with those interpersonal relationships that help your overall demeanor stay calm, and you can really put your energy then out to the world around you because your needs are met. And so that's kind of the point of the podcast today, is just to say, hey, like, we really do value relationships. Whether it's, you know, I value my relationship with my husband and my family and my kids, but Dr. Bobbie is like literally like one of my dearest friends. And so I think it's important to say, like, this is why, and this is why we continue to foster our friendship, is because it's mutually beneficial and we have grown together over the years. And I'm super excited as we, like, you know, all of the struggles of, like, you know, running companies and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, just like each new phase, like, you know, we just bumble through it together. I'm like, let's see, like,
Throw that spaghetti, see what sticks.
yep, that's
Right?
that's the motto. Throw the handful
Yeah.
of spaghetti, something's bound to stick, right? It can't all drop.
Right. Exactly.
And then learn and
So
grow. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think, and also if you enjoy hearing stories about Jess and I, let us know. Kind of if you want more, because Jess and I have more than plenty funny stories that we could share with you.
Absolutely. So yeah, we just want to meet the needs of the people that are listening and, make sure that we're putting out content that matters, that they find valuable and helpful. And, we just continue to throw spaghetti. So, all right, everybody, stay tuned. We've got one more episode in November, in the month of relationships, and then we're going to move into goal setting in December. So all sorts of fun stuff.
Thank you for listening to the episode today. If you would like to learn more about how Two Gals can support you, then join our Two Gals Insiders membership, which can be found at www.2-gals.com. Also, don't forget, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook as well as Instagram. Okay, everybody. Bye. Enjoy your week.